Let's go live to the opposition leader, Angus Taylor. He's campaigning ahead of the Farrer by-election. He's in the town of, near Albury at a silo manufacturer. Let's have a listen in.
We want to see an economy where the standard of living of Australians is restored, where we protect our way of life, where people know that they're going to be able to buy a home, they know they're going to be able to start a business, and that's not what we're seeing right now. Now, before I take questions, I'll get Raisa to make a few comments about what she's seeing around Farrer and what we're fighting for in this enormously important electorate.
All right. Thanks, Angus. So obviously it's really lovely to be out here in Walla at Kotza this morning. Obviously, again, wonderful to have Angus on day 2 of the campaign, and I think at this point, coming and seeing what the lifeblood of regional communities does look like in organisations like Kotza has been, it just shows that there is so much to give in regional communities. So obviously looking forward to getting out and getting across the electorate for the next 8 weeks. So thank you.
So, happy to take questions. We'll start. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yesterday we heard a lot about, thanking Susan for her time serving as the member for Farrer. You said you reached out to her. I'm just curious, have you heard back from her yet?
So I have reached out to Susan. We've still not been able to connect at this point in time.
Mr Taylor, the ACCC has hauled major fuel retailers before an emergency meeting over petrol price spikes. Is the watchdog playing catch-up?
Well, the government's playing catch-up. There's no doubt about that, and they haven't caught up. I mean, we have one of our 2 refineries.
Good day, Australia. It takes a special kind of political performance to go from everything is fine on Tuesday to we have a national crisis on Thursday. That is not a learning curve. That is a cliff. Welcome to the Australian mind. If you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that button and smash the notification bell, because this channel is where Australian politics gets the scrutiny it deserves. Let us get straight into it. Opposition leader Angus Taylor has said what a growing number of Australians are thinking. Chris Bowen is out of his depth, not struggling slightly, not having a rough patch, out of his depth. Those were Taylor's exact words, delivered with the kind of quiet precision that lands harder than a shouted accusation, because everyone watching knew he was right. Here's the sequence of events that prompted that assessment, and it's worth laying it out clearly because the timeline alone tells the whole story. Tuesday of last week, Chris Bowen doesn't even acknowledge there is a problem. Asked about fuel supply concerns as the Iran conflict drives oil prices skyward and regional communities begin reporting difficulty accessing diesel, the energy minister is unmoved, calm, dismissive. There is no crisis, nothing to see here. Thursday, national crisis. Tuesday to Thursday, 48 hours, from zero concern to national emergency. That is not a minister who had the situation under control and then watched it deteriorate despite his best efforts. That is a minister who was either not across the information available to him, not taking the warning signs seriously, or, and this is perhaps the most alarming possibility, was across it all and chose to downplay it anyway. Taylor did not mince words when he addressed this on the record. He pointed out the obvious. A minister cannot credibly claim to be managing a crisis he refused to acknowledge existed 2 days before declaring it a national emergency. That is not crisis management. That is crisis discovery. And there is an enormous difference between the two. Now zoom out for a moment and look at the broader context, because Bowen's handling of this does not exist in isolation. It sits within a global energy shock that Australia was always going to feel, and the question was never whether the Iran conflict would impact us, but whether we were prepared enough to absorb it. The answer, it turns out, is not particularly reassuring. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has sent oil prices surging, and Australia, with its dangerously thin fuel reserves and heavy reliance on imported supply, is acutely vulnerable. Every truckie, every farmer, every small business operator who depends on diesel to function was counting on their government to have a plan ready. Not a plan drafted in a panic on Wednesday night, a real plan built on years of preparation and honest assessment of Australia's energy security vulnerabilities. Instead, they got a minister who wasn't even accepting the problem existed on Tuesday. Taylor's demand is direct. The Prime Minister needs to take control. And it's hard to argue with the logic. When your Energy Minister transitions from denial to national emergency declaration within a single working week, when the paperwork for announced solutions has not been signed, when regional communities still can't get a straight answer on when relief is coming, that is a situation that has outgrown the minister responsible for it. Anthony Albanese cannot keep treating this as Chris Bowen's problem to manage in isolation. The fuel security of this nation is a prime ministerial responsibility. The buck does not stop at the ministerial desk, it stops at the top. And right now, the top needs to be visibly engaged, publicly accountable, and driving outcomes, rather than waiting for the minister to figure it out. Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for ordinary Australians. The people feeling this crisis most acutely did not cause it and have no power to fix it. Farmers waiting on diesel deliveries, truckies absorbing fuel costs that are eating their margins alive, regional towns watching prices climb while Canberra argues about paperwork timelines and committee approvals. These are not abstractions. These are real Australians in real distress, and they deserved a government that saw this coming and had a plan ready before the crisis hit the front pages. Taylor's critique cuts to the core of what accountability in government is supposed to look like. You don't get credit for eventually acknowledging a crisis you spent days denying. You don't get to announce solutions and then quietly reveal the solutions are weeks from implementation. And you absolutely do not get to describe a situation as well prepared as we possibly could be, when the evidence suggests otherwise at every turn. Out of his depth. 2 days, Tuesday to Thursday. Australia deserves better. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.